Guten Tag, APUSH. We have a new video today. It's the bee's knees by the big cheese himself, Mr. Linegar. Let's make history today as we jaw over Unit 1, Day 7. But first let's do our daily punishment. Can February march? No, but April may. Your key terms for today are the Paxton Boys, the Regulator Movement, John Peter Zenger, the Molasses Act, the First Great Awakening, Jonathan Edwards, George Whitefield, New Lights, and Old Lights. We are going to go over poor Yeoman rebellions, stepping stones to American democracy, the First Great Awakening, and its effect. So let's start talking about poor populist Yeoman rebellions. Remember, Yeomen are small farmers. Colonies already had their roots in populist Yeoman's revolts. Some of the ones we've talked about were Bacon's Revolt and Leisler's Rebellion. There will be some other poor rebellions by white farmers. The Paxton Boys did not like the power that the Quaker oligarchy had in Pennsylvania, so they're going to lead a revolt. Of course, what they do is they do something that is very common in American history, is they start killing peaceful, innocent Native Americans. Their revolt, one of the reasons they were upset was because the Native American, they didn't like how the Pennsylvania was kind of tolerant towards the Native Americans. So they start slaughtering random Native Americans. White people. The Regulator Movement is going to be a rebellion in North Carolina. Remember, North Carolina was originally a squatter colony, but by the late 1600s, you start to see some planter aristocrats, and this is going to be a rebellion against the eastern planter aristocrats in North Carolina. They will lead an insurrection. One of the other big things during this time is there will be a trial that will lead to freedom of the press, or it's going to at least be a stepping stone for that. John Peter Zenger is going to reveal the corruption of the governor of New York. He will be charged with libel. He'll be arrested and imprisoned. The judge will tell the jury to find him guilty, and the jurors, as good as Americans, will still find him not guilty. This will be one of the stepping stones to freedom of the press, which we will see in our Bill of Rights later on. Let's talk about colonial life during this time. The English were somewhat attempting to govern the colonies economically. They had passed the Navigation Acts and the Molasses Act, but really the colonies were just smuggling, and the English weren't doing that much to stop them. There were only two types of colonies left, royal and proprietor. A lot of the kings of England had got rid of the joint stock colonies. They didn't like how independent they were, or independent-minded. There were really two established churches in colonial America. The South had the Church of England. In New England, most of them were congregational, which takes their beliefs from John Calvin. We do have new colleges by the early 1700s. We had already talked about Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, but you're going to start to see Columbia, the University of Pennsylvania, Brown, Rutgers, and Dartmouth. All of them are in the north, except for Pennsylvania, which is in the middle colonies. Nothing in the south. They just have William and Mary. However, there are going to start to be religious problems during this time. Dun, dun, dun. Churches having some philosophical problems. There's the problems with Arminianism. Arminianism is a more kinder version of Calvinism. They basically believe you could go to heaven through good works. They kind of try to downplay the idea of double predestination. It's a gentler, kinder version of Calvinism. It's like me. Some of the solutions were not very effective. They're going to keep the elaborate doctrine, which a lot of people did not find very helpful at this time or like comforting. They will liberalize some church membership. We talked about the halfway covenant before, which you should definitely know. What's going to happen is there is going to be a religious revival during this time. It's called the First Great Awakening. The First Great Awakening is going to be influenced by Pietism in Germany in the 1730s. It's going to start in towns, but it's going to spread to the backcountry, the country area. It's going to really be different depending on which region you are. It's it will look different in different parts of the country. In New England, they're going to be reviving the congregational churches. In the middle colonies, the Presbyterian revivalism. In the South, it's going to be more Baptist and Methodist revivalism. There'll be two groups of people in the First Great Awakening. The Old Lights were the conservative, older religious pastors. They did not like the Great Awakening. They feared that it would divide the church. They thought by making it, the First Great Awakening was all about emotion and being touched by Jesus, like metaphorically, and having a spiritual experience and being like born again, being converted. And the Old Lights thought that like by doing that, you're basically, it's about you and not about God saving you. So they think that weakens the idea of the elect. They also just didn't, they didn't like the idea of the First Great Awakening. They thought it was kind of vulgar. The New Lights will be the pastors and the parishioners that like the First Great Awakening, that support it. The First Great Awakening was supposed to be something that really unified and increased church membership, but it's actually going to divide the churches, and it actually kind of was divisive. Not saying it was a bad thing, but it was pretty divisive. Here are the two big preachers for the First Great Awakening. You have my boy, Jonathan Edwards. He's going to be a famous New Light preacher. He preached that there's no salvation through good works. So he was a good Calvinist, Puritan, as far as like his theology went. You have to completely rely on God's grace. He made the famous sermon, Sinners in the Hands of the Angry God, that compared us to like little spiders just dangling from the fiery pits of hell. And the only thing keeping us from burning in hell for all eternity is God's partial love towards us. Very nice reading. I read it to my daughter every day. George Whitefield is going to be a great speaker. He's also a First Awakening preacher. He brings people to tears, including the cynic and deist Benjamin Franklin. He's going to do a new preaching style, like New Lights, focusing on emotions. That picture was accurate. He did have the thing with the eyes where like cross-eyed. He was cross-eyed. So good for him. And that's all we have for today, guys. And we are actually done with colonial America, which makes me super sad because I love this unit. But we'll be starting our next unit soon, and I will see you later. Until next time, deuces, deuces, deuces.